All right, let's do it live on a First Friday Miracle Edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. I am merely Bo. Gibbe is here.
Hi.
The G-Man is here. Dr. J is here. How we living, boys?
First Friday.
I need it.
Had a lemon. They had like a little lemonade bar downstairs. I just wanted to add a little vodka. You could mix your own fruit in. I was like, boy, this would be great with a vodka right now.
What's in a lemonade bar?
Lavelle hooked it up. The multiple topping, or things you could put in: strawberries,
Infusers?
raspberries, fruits.
Okay.
Yeah, a nice little setup. About 8 different choices, and then some fresh squeezed lemonade.
You know, the thing my kids get most excited when they see, I don't know what restaurants have it, but the one that it's the orange thing, and then it's got the kaleidoscope of flavors, and you can pick whatever flavor you want. That's kind of what he did down there, except he did the adult version with the lemonade. The adult version of the pick the flavor you want.
I'm in for all of that.
Yeah, it's a win. It's a win. This is going to be a crazy – I stand by what I said. We're done with winter in terms of it being sustained. We're not going to have sustained winter. That's done. But this is going to be a crazy juxtaposition to go from 60s. Like right now I walked in, it was 62 sunny. Now I drove through some rain to get here, but then 62 sunny. And then what's coming tonight is going to eventually turn to snow. Is that right?
Correct. And I believe before the end of the show today, there will be a potentially interesting little system coming through in the 2 o'clock hour.
What are we dealing in?
Wind, maybe some rain, some thunder, some lightning.
Oh, jeez. This is the time of year we get oh, God, yeah, it is, isn't it? It's the time of year we get those crazy windstorms.
Correct. And this is
going to be that.
This is happening right now.
All right. Let me see.
So, and then by tonight, it's supposed to change over to maybe some snow showers before it's all said and done. I think the low tonight's like 29.
Jeez. I'm looking at the hourly with my friends at AccuWeather. Wind gusts starting here in the next few minutes, upwards of 40 miles an hour, sustained in the 20s. So sustained 20s is what you're looking at on that standpoint. And then from a temp standpoint, we've already peaked. It's all downhill from here.
Exactly. I think we bounce back early next week. I feel like we're back into the 50s, maybe even some 60s next week.
Yeah, you're 36, 42, 39, 43, then 50 by Monday, 58 by Tuesday, 67 by Wednesday, and then so we're cooked. This is it. It's the last little stretch.
I would like to think so.
Yeah, it'll be tomorrow.
I don't know.
Well, we could get one more big snow. Maybe you could see that being the case.
We've had it in April. We've had it even in May.
There was a year. This feels to me like between 12 and 15 years ago, where the state basketball tournaments were delayed because of snow.
I was calling games down in Columbus. And I literally could not get home. I got wrapped up a game. I was calling, I think it was girls semifinals.
Okay.
And we wrapped a game and it was 8 o'clock and I looked outside. I'm like, nah, I'll take another night in the hotel, please.
I would say that was probably 15 years ago.
Yeah,
was my bet.
I would give
but
you
I
that.
remember that the state champions were, it's supposed to all be done by Saturday, and then they end up having to play some games Saturday and Sunday, and it all kind of got pushed down there. So we have those type of things in our repertoire here in the great state of Ohio. So, this is going to be a tough next 24, and then we should be good. There's a lot going on in the National Football League today in terms of some of and we'll have Jeff Hobson on a little later at 2:30 on the Bengals side of things. And I'm sure we have that in the show here. But I just wanted to – so, you have it in Around the League.
You can go to it now if you'd like.
Yeah, just for a second on the news of Sam Hubbard's retirement. So – I don't know if you saw how this broke. Jordan Schultz reported it first that he was being released, and then within a couple of minutes, Jay Morrison, who we've had on before, he used to be, I think, at the Inquirer, then the Athletic. He's kind of bounced around, but he's one of the really respected, known voices down there on that beat. And Jay Morrison tweeted out something about congratulating Sam on the career and good luck in your retirement. And I went, whoa, that's different than being released. I mean, that's very different. So then within a minute and a half, I saw Sam's note saying he was retiring and Shefty tweeting that out. And then it all kind of came out. But it was one of those things where the messaging Morrison had the messaging, and it's one of those things where, like, local beat is still so critical because, yes, Schultz had the story that Sam Hubbard wasn't going to play for the Cincinnati Bengals anymore, but he did not have all of the context on the story.
Correct.
And that was provided by – now, the only way you'd even know it is if you were on X during the time when this all happened, and I happened to be. It was about a 2-minute window where Morrison clarified it as retirement versus released, and that changed it. But it's how important, that critical, that local beat still remains.
I mean, I might be wrong, but I don't think so. In talking to the G-Man about this, I'm assuming, like, he never wanted to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
And he's made his money. He's had a great career. Went to a Super Bowl. Has made some iconic plays in Bengals history. And just I don't think he wanted to go anywhere else. Grew up there. Played at Ohio State. Able to stay home. And he's probably a lifer down there.
He's so he's got the fumble in the jungle, which is the scoop and score 98 yards in the divisional game against Baltimore.
Yep.
So he's got that play, which is an iconic play. His last play as an NFL player is a touchdown reception from Joe Burrow. Remember, against Tennessee, he caught the touchdown pass and then injured his knee on that play. So that was his final play as an NFL player, was a touchdown reception for Joe Burrow. Now, the irony of that, if you'll indulge me a little Ohio football history here, this is a kid from Cincinnati Moeller, who we certainly know they have one of the highest tallies of state championships in the history of the sport in high school football. So he's a Cincinnati Moeller kid. He was a lacrosse scholarship guy first at Notre Dame.
Really?
So he's going to go to Notre Dame to play lacrosse. And a lot of people think that maybe that he's on a very short list of the best Ohioans to ever play lacrosse. He was 6'6", 225 pounds.
Give him a stick and watch out.
Yeah, get the hell out of the way. And he was athletic enough that he played safety at Moeller. So that's the type of athlete he was. When he got to Ohio State, he was around 220 pounds. When he left Ohio State, he was 270 pounds. Now, what's crazy about this is the show that I was doing at the time down in Columbus, preceding us immediately on Thursdays was the Urban Meyer show. So Urban's show would come, and then my show would come, the show I did with a guy named Anthony Rothman at the time. And during Sam Hubbard's freshman year, Urban consistently would mention Sam on the show. So that's 2015 Ohio State. Like, go win another national championship, Buckeyes, right? But he would consistently talk about this freshman. And we're like, what is going on? Like, why this kid's not playing? He's a redshirt. Like, why does he keep doing this so often? Well, what he was doing was he was using it as an olive branch to Sam to say, hey, we still value you. And the reason he had to do that is because they were bouncing the kid all over the place. He came in as a safety. Then he was a tight end. Then they thought maybe he could play linebacker at some point before finally setting on defensive end. But he had to also be willing to put on a bunch of weight. So he came into Ohio State around 220. He left at 270.
That's insane. I did not know that.
Yeah, so they didn't know if he was a safety or a tight end.
They knew he could play.
They just knew he was a stud. And they're kind of doing a similar thing with Sonny Styles now, where he was a safety. His was only between safety and linebacker, but there was time when people thought he could be a defensive end. But they just knew he was a ball of clay. But how do we use him? And I think it would be fascinating to talk to the folks down there about what led them to get him to that spot, because they chose wisely. He chose wisely taking football over lacrosse, and they chose wisely making him a defensive end.
Yeah.
Like, it all worked. So, yeah, he's an all-time Ohio high school athlete, all-timer, and that's saying something around here.
But that frees up more money.
Well, that's something I'm going to talk to Hobson about when he joins us at 2:30.
Things are continuing to free up there in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
They're going to have 4 players and a bunch of practice squad guys.
Yes.
I think that might be
I don't know. I don't know if you can build a team that way.
I don't know either.
It seems like that's what they're going to do, though. We've got some hot topics today presented by University Hospitals, official healthcare partner of your Cleveland Browns. There are reports that 3 big names are in the building today.
I'll go ahead and
you can confirm?
Yeah.
Gibby can confirm that they're in the building.
Yeah.
Abdul
at
Carter,
breakfast at about 8 a.m. this morning.
Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, and Shadur Sanders are all in the building today. I don't recall anything like this, but I didn't do this show when we were picking bake.
I know the team has said, and there are reports out there that the team has said, it's a scheduling thing. Like, when can you get the guys in the building?
Yeah.
And I think it just so happened that the opportunity came about. All three are here. Now, I think the other top quarterback candidate might be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, according to some of the reports that I've seen. So, it sounds like trying to meet with the top guys here before free agency starts. So maybe that gives them a clearer picture of what they're going after and what they're doing here over the next few weeks.
You'd want to meet with all these guys you're picking second.
Yes.
And you want to make sure this is Nathan and I have been calling it a life raft for the last 2 months. It's one that you have to get on one way or another. Now, we've been adamant, quarterback, no matter what, adamant on it. But if it's not that, then it's got to be a hit no matter what. And we've said, and you've heard many people say, like Dane last week when we were talking about the Combine, like there are no sure things in the NFL draft. Acknowledged. No, there aren't. But one thing that is a sure thing is that when you have these type of opportunities at number 2 overall, you have to hit on it.
Yeah.
You have to. And that's not fair, but that's it. That's the job. You have to hit on this pick. It's got to be a difference maker. It's got to be somebody in the realm of what Denzel Ward it was. That's what a first-round pick in the top 5 should look like, what Denzel and Miles have been. That's it. Miles, the high end of it. You don't have to be Miles, but you've got to be at that level.
You're a Pro Bowl player.
You've got to be a cornerstone.
Yeah. And you're in the discussion for All-Pro.
Yeah, you should be.
At that point. I think everybody was worried, is everybody going to get enough time? It sounds, Kimberly Martin was reporting there was a dinner last night.
Yeah, I saw that.
With the coaches and with the 3 guys. I'm sure everybody's getting equal time in terms of meeting guys and whatnot. But, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Abdul Carter, and Travis Hunter are the top 4 players in the NFL draft.
Yeah.
You could throw in you can make a case for an offensive tackle. You might be able to make a case for the corner from Michigan, but I don't think he's the top 4.
No, I think
these are the top 4 guys.
Don't you think it was consensus too? Like it was Carter, Hunter, Ward was like, and then Shedeur. It was like situationally.
Sure.
What does that look like situationally? I think our situation would be very good for him. But like the 2 surest of sure things were Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter, and those 2 and Shedeur Sanders are in the building. You mentioned this yesterday. I think we did this in Thing or Not a Thing, and I think we're seeing some of the reaction to what we were saying about how weak this free agent class is, that it might be one of the weakest in the last decade. So what you're starting to see to buttress that is player movement. So we have another one here, Tom Pelissaro, in the last 15 seconds, 2-time Pro Bowl wide receiver DK Metcalf has requested a trade from the Seahawks, and the Seahawks have agreed to explore options there. He is 27.
And they cut Lockett earlier this morning.
Oh, I missed that.
Oh, yeah. That happened already.
Yeah.
So now does Geno Smith become expendable in Seattle? Now are you talking a complete overhaul?
I wonder what his contract is.
I don't know what that contract looks like, but Lockett's out. DK wants out. Here's the question. Is the free agent wide receiver class shaping up to be better than a draft wide receiver class? The only thing is with a wide receiver class in the draft, you're getting guys under contract. You have that rookie deal, so it's cap friendly as opposed to a free agent deal. But
so, Geno does not have a contract after this year. He's 35, by the way, but this is the last year of his contract. His cap hit is $44.5 million.
It's not awful.
So that's the number on that. Roster bonus $16 million. But yeah, it's a $44.5 million cap hit. On that, the last deal he signed was 3 years, 75, guaranteed at signing 27, total guaranteed 40. So he's already done with that. He's out of the total guarantees.
Wow. So does he become a candidate to move?
Maybe.
If Seattle is okay with DK Metcalf looking for a trade partner, if you're Geno Smith, who are you throwing the football to with no Lockett, no DK?
Jackson Smith and Jigba's still there, but beyond that, it's. Yeah,
No, he's going to get a chance to be the man finally.
Yeah, Christian Kirk released as well. I mean, so there's a lot going on.
A lot of maneuvering.
There is. It's a fight to get under the cap. It's a fight to have space. It's also a thing where, like, look, if a guy doesn't want to be here and you don't want to give him a new contract, get out from under it right away. So all of those things. I think Metcalf's going to have a big amount of interest on the market.
Yeah, but what's the asking price? What's that look like? And
I think the other thing is it's kind of like Joe Thuney, who was acquired today by the Bears. Like Kansas City, he's 33. Kansas City didn't want to pay him anymore, and so they make that move. I mean, I suppose you could do that with DK too. I wonder what because doesn't he want to? I'm sure he's going to want a new deal.
I mean, it's like it would be similar to the Debo trade. The compensation might not be as much, but you got to sign DK to a new contract.
So yes, he's in the exact same spot as Geno is. So DK's cap hit is 31.8. The initial signing bonus was 30, guaranteed 31 at signing. So the guaranteed money's already done on his deal. His cap hit, as I said, is $31 million this year. It's a prorated signing is on there, and then another 18 in base salary. This is his big money year, honestly. This is the big money year of his contract. Is this part of it? But yeah, that cap hit is 31.8. So we'll see what that looks like. But I mean, this is a reaction, I think, to what we said of the free agent class isn't great, and so you have a bunch of people who are trying to maneuver to find ways to improve their team and to create space. A lot of these teams trying to create cap space at the moment. All right, this is from Adam Schefter. This is courtesy of the Adam Schefter podcast. This is Adam Schefter on our old buddy Joe Flacco.
How about Joe Flacco, who's already led the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs 2 years ago? And there were people in the organization that wanted to keep him. He wanted to play. They let him go because there was some division there. He went to Indianapolis, went fine. But Joe Flacco back to Cleveland could be the perfect bridge quarterback for when Cleveland drafts a quarterback. I expect to be high. So you have Flacco as the potential starter or the rookie if he's ready. Flacco's a great guy to have in the locker room. I think Joe Flacco could be in play in Cleveland. So if we give Daniel Jones to Indianapolis and Joe Flacco to the Cleveland Browns and Sam Darnold back to the Minnesota Vikings, Tennessee Titans have the option of drafting one. The Giants have the option of drafting one. The Browns, we think, are going to be in the market to draft one. There's really only two quarterbacks that are going to go high, so all three of those teams are not going to get one. But you begin to get an idea of how these quarterbacks are going to shake out here in the coming weeks.
I don't know where the Flacco stuff's coming from, but if he's talking about it, he's heard it from somewhere.
Yeah, and he's awesome when he was here.
Yes.
He was such a cool dude, and I mean, he came in studio with us, not like that. You need to do that to be that in that category, but just was very approachable, very cool, meant everything to the community. The one thing about it was like that was such magic. Could that ever be even remotely lived up to? He's such an incredible person to have in a building, though, and I think Shefty's point, if it was, if it's the right quarterback for him to mentor, I think he'd be welcome back here with open arms, I would think. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do with quarterback, but I would think that he was so popular here, not just in the building, but in the room, all of it.
And maybe that factors into who you bring into this quarterback room if you're the Browns. Because is Sam Darnold going to want to mentor a kid and then step aside when it's time? Or Daniel Jones? Or
I mean, like Sam may have options. I saw Tennessee's out of Darnold, out of that business. Like they're not doing that. So I said this yesterday. Darnold now is the domino. Minnesota has to decide what it's doing on Darnold. Once that happens, everything else can kind of sort its way out. It feels like Pittsburgh is going to go the Fields route. Rodgers is a wild card out there, whether that's Giants or whatever. And then does Russell Wilson go to the Raiders? If the Vikings don't sign Darnold, where does he land? So there's a bunch of stuff that needs to happen here, but I think what you're getting is a league that's kind of positioning itself to be malleable to what's coming.
I think you have 5 teams we talked about that are in this quarterback race.
Yes.
But I feel like the way this is trending, there might be a few others before it's all said and done here a week from now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you might be right. I think that you better get your head around this, Gibbe.
Oh?
I think your Cleveland Cavaliers are going to play LeBron James' Los Angeles Lakers in the NBA Finals. I think that's what's coming.
I will buy the plain toe.
I
will remind everyone that he left twice.
I know you will. The Cavs are 51-10. The Cavs should be the favorite to win the NBA championship. They're not because it's still Boston and Oklahoma City. Fine. The Cavs are 51-10. Since the addition, they've won 11 in a row. They can get behind and come back no matter what. They've done that now 3 straight games. Donovan Mitchell is a Celtics killer. He goes off. He's totally fearless against them. So, and by the way, that's becoming more and almost a lock that if it is Cavs Celtics in the Eastern Conference Final, that game will be played here. I don't see the Celtics coming in here and winning a Game 7.
No.
I don't. So, I still think that matters, and that place is a zoo when they get like that. Conversely, the Lakers are like 17-3 in their last 20.
And right now, the competition's going away by the day.
It's fallen off. Sucks what happened to Kyrie, but like
Dallas gone, Spurs out. Like, what's left? I mean, Golden State's starting to pick up a little steam.
Well, and they would. I think they're probably in that category that the Lakers are in, probably behind OKC and behind Denver, but then right there, and something that nobody wants to play. Like, if Oklahoma City.
Are we buying Oklahoma City?
I know all the smart people around the league love them. I understand it. They're deep. They're talented, all those things. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's going to win the MVP. But, like, if it's them against LeBron and Luka in the Western Final,
correct,
I'll take LeBron and Luka.
Yeah.
I think I'll roll with them. That's what I'm saying. I think it would probably be, like, for Dan, provided we win, would be like the ultimate, like, we're good now.
Yep. Now we're
good. Now we're good. We're good now. So, I don't know. But I think you better wrap your head around that because I think that's what this thing feels like.
I don't even know
trending.
what that will look like for me.
Well, it'd be a ratings bonanza.
Yes.
It'd be a ratings bonanza. I think Lakers Cavs would even be bigger than Lakers Celtics. I know that seems crazy to people, but I really think
history and everything.
Yeah. I think it would be the highest possible rating for the NBA to have that storyline of LeBron coming back here. By the way, he had, what did he have last night? 36, 8, and 7.
Luka or LeBron?
LeBron.
LeBron's on a tear right now.
And Luka had like 34, 15 assists and 8 rebounds.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So is LeBron the go-to down the stretch?
He acquiesces to Luka from what in the times I've seen. It just works because they're both supercomputers, so they just make the right play all the time. They don't even have Austin Reeves, who's turned into a really nice player for them. He's been out the last couple of games. But it feels to me like we're headed for Cavs-Lakers, which would be a lot of fun. That'd be a lot of fun. All right, 23 years. After 23 years, ESPN has canceled Around the Horn. The final episode will air May 23rd. I thought they kind of announced this earlier that this was coming. Maybe they just finally made it official. But there was a lot of rumors that it was coming. Do you remember the original cast of the very first Around the Horn?
Oh, my God.
I'm going to give it a shot. I don't know this for sure. I remember I watched it because I loved Tony and Mike in the Washington Post. And I remember as soon as PTI came on, I'm like, that show's awesome. That's everything that you'd want. And then they launched the show after it. So Max Kellerman is host. Does the G-Man have it up?
He's working on it now. I'm trying not to look at it.
All right. I think Max Kellerman's the host. I think it's Jay Mariotti out of Chicago, former Sun-Times columnist.
Okay.
I'm going to go with...
Is it Bob Ryan?
Bob Ryan.
I think Bob Ryan's got to be up there.
Bob Ryan, Boston Globe. I think I'm going to go... Now, there's 3 that I could go for the final 2 spots. It's either Bill Plaschke.
Out of Denver?
Plaschke's out of L.A.
L.A., sorry.
Plaschke, Woody Page.
That's the one that was Denver.
Tim Kalishaw.
Who is
I think it's one of the two.
Who's the guy out of Detroit that was on the Sunday Morning Reporters?
Mitch Albom.
No, glasses.
Lupica? Lupica's out of New York. He's out of New York.
Out of New York.
New York Daily News. No, I don't think he was on it. Do you have it, G-Man?
G-Man, do you know the original cast?
I'm going to go.
The first host was Max Kellerman.
I know it was Kellerman. I'm going to go Mariotti, Ryan, Plaschke, Tim Kalashaw. I'm going to go with that, but I think it could be Woody Page. I think Woody Page and Kalashaw are.
We can't find the actual year. There's train horns, if you'd like that, around the horn cast revealed.
All right, here we go. Very first episode. All right. So, then reality came.
It's tough to find.
Well, the Wikipedia may have it.
Oh, look at the Around the Horn's first show.
Was it Page? I think Woody might have. I forgot Woody Page was on Cold Pizza.
Okay, there's Page. Page was on.
So Page was on. So I bet it's Page, Plaschke, Ryan. Mariotti. That's my guess. Bob Ryan, Bill Plaschke, Jay Mariotti, and Woody Page. Or did Kalashaw replace?
So you had Max, you had Ryan, you had Mariotti, you had Page. You did not have.
Is it Plaschke or Kalashaw?
TJ Simmers?
TJ Simers was on the first episode?
Yeah.
So TJ over Bill.
Who is he?
Simers. He was an LA Times columnist from back in the day.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I would not have had that. So Simers, TJ Simers. Mariotti, Ryan, and Page. That's right. Okay. I got that wrong then. I thought for sure I had the four in a group of five. I would not have had TJ on the first one. I would have thought. I guess I had the right newspaper. Plaschke was LA Times, and so Simers was the LA Times as well. But man, that's a lot of shows. 23 years.
It's a hell of a run.
Yeah. And it was. You're talking about the final episode will air May 23rd. Tony Reale's been hosting it for ever.
He's gone through some things.
February 2004.
He's produced it and hosted it.
Well, he was Stat Boy on PTI.
Yeah.
So he did like PTI Stat Boy, which then led to it. Yeah, it was a definite in the beginning. It was very much a hot, have a take, don't suck show. You know, it was strong and they'd be very argumentative. It doesn't really have that much anymore. But that's a heck of a run. 23 years in the same spot. Good job out of them. And I think PTI is just going to be an hour now is what they're doing.
I'd do that. I love PTI still.
I mean, Tony's got to be approaching 80 though, right? How long can he do that?
Same with Wilbon.
Wilbon's 10 years younger than Tony. So if Tony's in his late 70s, Wilbon's late 60s. So going back from their Washington Post days. Yeah. It's funny, real quickly on this. You know how, like, when we were kids, Sports Center was the be-all, end-all, all the way through, like, college, high school, college, all that, young adults, all that. I just watched my kids' behavior. They watch Sports Center every morning.
Smart kids.
They get up, and they put it on, and they watch it all the way through top plays, and then they go get in the shit. That's the same routine every day. Sports Center might be making a little bit of comeback.
I'm good
all
with
the stuff in one place. There's value in it. I think it's interesting because for the longest time it was fading, and I know it'll never get back to what it was. You know,
with
Dan
the
and Keith and all that stuff, and the Feel Good edition, all that. It won't have that, but that morning one the kids watch.
Wilbon is 66,
so then Tony's got to be 76.
Yeah,
they're getting up there. All right, there you go. Those are your hot topics of the day, presented by University Hospitals, official healthcare partner of your Cleveland Browns. Coming up next, Z and the voice, Andrew Siciliano, sit down with ESPN draft analyst Matt Miller at the NFL Scouting Combine. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. For the first time ever, witness Inter Miami take on the Columbus Crew at Huntington Bank Field. It's on April 19th. Secure your spot to see some of the MLS's biggest stars. Visit huntingtonbankfield.com/crew versus Miami to get your tickets today. Now here is Nathan and Andrew sitting down with ESPN draft analyst Matt Miller at the NFL Scouting Combine.
Very happy now to be joined by Matt Miller, ESPN NFL draft analyst. And here we are at the Combine yet again. When you come here, what do you do so much work on the tape? When you come here, is it more about the conversations that maybe happen outside of where we are right now, or is it more about the on-field? What do you come in here to get?
Man, it's both. And I feel like I kind of have a unique role at ESPN because I am trying to do the, talking to people, gathering information, reporting some of that information back to readers and viewers, but then I'm also evaluating the players, so it's a lot. It's you kind of wear two hats at the same time, and you're trying to watch players while having conversations and pick up information at the same time because, ultimately, like, that's what we want to take back to viewers and readers is,
sure,
here's what I'm hearing, but also, like, here's what I'm seeing.
Here's what I think.
Here's my view of it, but here's what I'm told. And so that's what makes, like, mock drafts versus big boards kind of fun because you get to do both those things.
Yeah, and I actually took the words out of my mouth. That's where I was going. How do you – first of all, there's the communication with the reader and the viewer. Like, here's the difference.
Yep.
But how do you even in your head keep it straight? Because you may say, well, hey, I have this guy as the 12th rated player, the 18th rated player, but I know he's going in the top 10.
It happens
so
every year.
Do you ever feel the need, the inclination to go, well, maybe I'll slide him up a little bit? Like, how do you balance that?
I try really hard to not be influenced by it. So, like, in my database that it's just me, I'm in there, the only one putting notes in it, I'll put in bold letters. Like, a good example this year is Shamar Stewart, defensive lineman from Texas A&M. I think he'll be a top 15 pick.
He looks the part.
Right? I personally have him rated in the 30s. So
because of the lack of production?
Yeah, 1.5 sacks each of the last 3 years, right? So I'll put in big, bold letters. He's going to go in the top 15 so that when I am doing a mock draft and I'm running through my list of like, okay, who's a fit for the Browns, It's like, okay, this guy, even though I have him rated low, he's going to go higher. So I just try to keep myself as organized as humanly possible. But you're right. There is always that temptation of when a guy gets drafted on Thursday night, folks are going to go look and see where you had him graded, right, or had him ranked. And it is tough when a guy goes 15 and you have him in the 30s. So I think that's where you have to do a good job of explaining why there's that discrepancy.
Are there individuals, whether it be kind of in your community on the media side or I'm sure scouts or GMs even, that when you come here you get excited to 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and here's what I think about this. What do you think about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the forgotten part of the Combine is it's almost like a high school reunion. You get to see everybody and you get to talk to people that, some people I only see once a year because it feels like we're all remote these days, working. So I think that part of it's great. It's nice to also build those new relationships as the scouting community turns over. I'm getting older. They're getting younger, right? So it's like I ran into a scout the other day and he was like, Mr. Miller, I've been reading you since junior high. And I was like, well, hold up.
Yeah, dude.
I'm not old enough to be called Mr. Miller, right?
I 100%
it's like,
get it.
This dude's like 24 years old. And it's like, do the math. It's I guess he has been reading me for that long. So that's kind of the fun part of it now, too, is getting introduced to the younger generation of scouts that are coming up.
All right, let's get to the quarterbacks here, Matt Miller. Let's just cut right to it.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the top two guys out of it, all right?
Okay.
And I'm going to preface this by saying that historically, the theory, I'm going to get a day two quarterback and I'll be fine, doesn't work.
Yep.
Okay? Who is QB3? And is QB3, assuming he's day two, he might be in the 20s, but assuming he's day two, is QB3 in this draft a winning long-term answer for anybody?
I think QB3 is Jackson Dart, and I'm with you. I mean, in the right situation, yes. But for 25 out of 32 teams, probably not, right? I don't think that you're going to get a Jalen Hurts type situation where you get a guy at 52 and he goes and wins you a Super Bowl.
Yep.
I think that's a really unique situation. The middle class at quarterback is kind of gone. It's either you're good enough to go in the first round because teams think you're a starter. You don't draft a lot of backups in the second round. So I think that's where it does hurt the quarterback position because you're ultimately saying, we didn't like this guy enough in the first round to think he's a starter, but we'll take him in the second round and we hope he's a backup for 5 years. I think that's where we're seeing that gap. Like last year, 6 quarterbacks in round 1. We didn't have another go to like round 4, round 5. So that's where it'll be, I think, very interesting this year because we got this big group of quarterbacks, Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers, Will Howard, Kyle McCord, Jalen Milroe, all those guys, and we don't think they're round 1 players. Whereas, they're round 2, round 3 on grades, but like where do they actually get drafted because they have some starter ability if they're developed. But like you said, that doesn't really happen anymore.
No, and just because you got a good value there doesn't mean that value is actually going to be a winning football player as a starter.
Well, this year we had, 14 teams in the playoffs. 12 of them had first-round quarterbacks. Right. The other 2 were Jalen Hurts and there was one more that wasn't a first.
7 of 8 on divisional. 7 of 8 on divisional weekend were first-round picks and Jalen Hurts.
Right. So you got to. I mean, I think you have to go early, and you have to have that conviction. I mean, sitting at 2, everyone knows you'll need a quarterback. Like, you got to have that conviction and say, hey, these are the quarterbacks available. Can we build around them? Can we make something happen with one of these guys?
You're exactly right, and I'll take it a step further. Of the top 12 scoring offenses in the league, 11 of them had first-round quarterbacks. 6 of those were picked first or second overall. Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl champion, obviously the one outlier there. And you know in this business, right, don't bet on outliers.
Yeah, nope, don't want to do that.
You don't want to do that. So let's talk about the top 2, and obviously the huge need for the Browns. They do pick second here. Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, how do you have them? And kind of lots of the conversation we've had and kind of even our own conclusions, right? Shedeur maybe a better pocket passer, maybe in a Stefanski, McVay, Shanahan, nice fit. Cam, better ball of clay, more tools.
Yeah, and it's so like with my job, we scout for these imaginary teams that we build in our minds. I like Cam Ward more because that's more like my style of quarterback, the bigger arm, the mobility, some of the playmaking that he has. But I have said this before. I've said it on TV. I've said it in articles. I think Shedeur Sanders is a better fit for my understanding of what Kevin Stefanski wants to do offensively. Going back to his roots, I think Shedeur is a better fit. That doesn't mean he's going to be the pick at 2 or that he's even the right pick at 2. But I think if you had to ask me which guy fits the Browns better, I think Shedeur's style fits better. But you could absolutely talk yourself into Cam Ward. You're in a division with MVPs. You have Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow.
Yes.
You need a guy who can go make those plays for you as opposed to, I think Shedeur is a point guard. Whereas Cam Ward is a scorer.
He's a field general.
He's going to go out and he's going to create things that happen. With Shedeur, he'll sit in the pocket and he'll just throw darts all over the field. He's incredibly accurate. He's incredibly tough. But he's not the biggest guy, and he doesn't have the strongest arm. And so you are almost saying, like, okay, can we carve up the Bengals and Ravens and Steelers with a pocket quarterback? That's one of the big questions.
It's Matt Miller. Who is RB2 for you?
O'Marion Hampton from North Carolina.
Do you think he's there at 33?
Ooh, no, probably not. Because I feel like the running back has become so in vogue. And this is, a draft class that is light on blue chip players. So I do think there's a strong chance he goes in the first round.
I mean, our friend and colleague Daniel Jeremiah has 3 running backs in round number 1.
Okay, I haven't seen his latest mock draft.
That's Hampton going to the Vikings.
And he admits here that, hey, it's version 2 of the draft, and he was messing around with his son, and his son was like, hey, let's get some chaos here.
Yeah,
I love it.
3 backs in the first round.
Travion Henderson, the third one, I assume, from Ohio State.
Now you're putting me on.
Yeah,
yes. I listened to that pod. Yeah,
right.
It was Genty went 21. I want to say the Steelers.
Oh, he just had him go. Yeah,
and then it was the Vikings, and yes, it was Travion.
No,
I love it.
I think I think he had Hampton going to the Chargers. Because
somebody goes to the Vikings.
Right.
Then. Yeah. Maybe it's Travion.
Okay. It's Travion to
be
the
like
Vikings,
Jahmyr Gibbs,
Hampton to the Chargers, and I pointed out to DJ later. There is your Natron Means.
Ooh, there you
North
go.
Carolina Chargers history coming full circle.
Well, I know we
synergy right there.
Kuiper put out a mock this week. We did a show on it before I came here, and he had O'Marion Hampton going 12 to the Cowboys.
Look at that. Well, hold on. If we're working all these names in here and this we're talking to Matt Miller here for draft experts, we will make light of what we're talking about off the air, and that is insiders battling in coffee shops here.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why I'm drinking water today.
Would the draft gurus, you, DJ, Mel, Dane Brugler from the Athletic Ohio guy, would you four consider something similar? Has it ever come to pushing and shoving at a coffee shop?
Well, Kuiper doesn't travel, so no. You can't get Mel out of Baltimore, right, until the actual draft. So it'd have to happen on the road. Man, DJ's the nicest human being in the world. Daniel Jeremiah. I saw him this morning, and like, if you see DJ, you get a smile and a hug, and he says something complimentary about your work.
Absolutely.
So, no, I think with our industry, We're not breaking news. There's not that rush to be first. So, no, I think we all get along pretty well.
You don't want to kick Bucky Brooks' butt.
Bucky would whip me. No,
I love Bucky. Bucky's.
I'm not going to square up with Charles Davis. I'm not.
No,
there's no way.
Well, I mean, you have the age and the quickness on Chuck right now. People forget Bucky was a second-round pick. He was Travis Hunter before Travis Hunter.
Yep.
He played wide receiver and corner in this league and returned kicks. Travis Hunter was just asked, would you return kicks? He goes, I already got 2 jobs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, Travis, Bucky Brooks had 3, buddy.
Yeah.
Just saying.
No, I don't want anything. I don't want anything to do with those guys. Not at all. I'd run.
All right, for real quick, Brown-centric to kind of build on. Let's say it is a quarterback at 233. I'm all about weapons. I think you need to score to be competitive in the National Football League. Who are some of the people, and I use the word weapon because I don't really care now if it's a running back, if it's a tight end, if it's a receiver, that could be in that 33 spot, or maybe somebody that would say, hey, let's move a little bit. We always have the 11, all these picks. Let's get into the back of the first round.
Man, I want to see where the receiver run happens because Travis Hunter's, he's off by himself. He's going to go really, really early. But after that, where do guys like Tet McMillan from Arizona, Matthew Golden from Texas, Luther Burden from Missouri, Emeka Egbuka, Ohio State, where does that run start? Because if it doesn't start until the 20s, you might be looking at a situation where one of them is still available at 33 because teams are going to draft offensive tackles, defensive linemen in this draft. They're going to fly off the board. So I do think those 4 receivers, there's a shot that one of them's still there at 33. I think at the tight end position, Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland are going to be gone, but Mason Taylor could potentially be there. Elijah Arroyo from Miami, who had a really good Senior Bowl week, he's going to be there. So I think you can get weapons, and even at running back, even if the 3 are gone. Caleb Johnson from Iowa, hell of a player. Quinshon Judkins, Ohio State, really good player. Dylan Sampson from Tennessee is a really good player. So I do think you can get those weapons at 33.
That'd be great. Matt Miller, thank you so much for the time. Enjoy the rest of your time here in Indy. And as you said, tread easy in the coffee shops around the Combine. Very happy now to be joined.
All right, good stuff there with Z, Andrew, and, of course, Matt Miller of ESPN. That from last week at the NFL Scouting Combine. Coming up next, we go around the league. It's been a busy day already. We'll get you up to speed. Coming up next, listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Add more fun to your fandom with the Ballybet Sportsbook app. Download today. Get 50 back in bonus bets when you place your first wager of 10 or more. Ballybet, official sports betting partner of the Cleveland Browns. Time to go around the league, presented by Lee Filter, official gutter guard of your Cleveland Browns. We have some breaking news on the defensive end front, not concerning our guy, but potentially.
I think it could affect our guy coming up here. The Raiders signing Pro Bowl defensive end Max Crosby to a 3-year, $106.5 million extension that includes $91.5 guaranteed. That's a nice payday, making him the highest paid non-QB in NFL history. That from Adam Schefter.
Even more than full stop, more than receivers?
Yeah.
So Jamar Chase will want to top that.
Correct. There's a number of players that are like, great, enjoy that for about 36 hours, and I'll see if I can top it.
Jamar Chase will want to top that. Miles will want to top it. Micah Parsons will want to top it.
Yep.
So that sets that new benchmark. That does tie in a little bit what we were talking about yesterday with the Raiders, Gibbe, when we were talking about, I do wonder, especially with Brady, those new minority investors that they have, there is this feeling of we're getting tired of not making enough traction in our market. Now, there's no easy way for them to become – there's no cheat code for them to become relevant. But I saw they're letting Minshew walk. I think probably Rodgers would sell there a little bit with Pete and all of that. Like Adams could come back. You've got Bowers. Crosby's locked in. Rodgers, draft McMillan out of Arizona or whoever. That's kind of the semblance of something.
There are teams that are –
They signed Joe Kappa today too, by the way.
Alex Kappa.
Alex, sorry.
2 years, I think it's $11 million a year. So, like, if you get cut, you don't have to wait till legal tampering on Monday at noon. Like, you're free to sign now.
Yeah.
So some of these guys are getting cut. They're free to pursue other interests ASAP. You just feel like they're like the Raiders were one of those teams positioning themselves. The Cowboys seem to be positioning themselves to go after somebody, redoing CD's contract and a few other guys.
Yeah.
And I mean, we know why the Bengals are repositioning themselves, but fascinating to see this. And the league new year starts 1 week from today.
Legal tampering is 1 week
Monday
it's 1 week from this past Monday.
Yeah.
So it's this Monday coming up.
Monday at noon.
So you're seeing a lot of these things that are happening. That's one where it's a guy re-upping and getting a raise. The Seahawks, as we mentioned earlier in the program, released veteran wide receiver Tyler Lockett, and they have given DK Metcalf requested a trade, and they're going to try to make that work. So they are going to eliminate 2/3 of their receiver room. Obviously, Jackson Smith and Jigba had a great season there, but at the same time, that is a dramatic turn of events for a team that has Geno Smith under contract for one more year.
Correct.
And then that's it on that side of things. The Jacksonville Jaguars have released wide receiver Christian Kirk. There's going to be a lot of talent out there.
What's the deeper class? Wide receiver free agents? Wide receiver draft? I know you're going to pay more for wide receiver free agents, but the wide receiver class is quickly blossoming here.
Yeah, I mean, T. Higgins was at the top of that, but now you have all these other guys underneath it, and this does, I think, piggyback into something that I've talked about for the last couple of years, that I think there's going to be such a glut of wide receivers coming into the league that that wide receivers almost will start to be treated sort of like how running backs got treated, where they were so many coming in and so many college teams running 3 and 4 wide stuff all the time that the amount of demand for the position is less so because it's consistently being filled via the draft.
Sure.
And I think there might be something to that. Mentioned Gardner Minshew, expected to be released by the Raiders as well.
I might be willing to take a flyer on him.
Yeah, it just depends on what the room is around and what the spot is, and then what you do. I think the thing that we learned, this is the one thing that I think we learned in the Baker experience. It's really important that if you draft a quarterback high, and I hope that we do and anticipate that we will, that if that's the case, that player needs to be put in the absolute optimal incubator for success. And I don't think you can just throw guys in a room.
Correct.
And see, would you be supportive? What does this look like? So whatever you do, if you take what is widely reported and acknowledged that you're going to take a quarterback at 2, or even if you do what Nathan and I have been talking about, which is go all the way to 1, whoever you sign as the veteran opposite that rookie quarterback has got to want to do that job, like Josh McCown did. Josh did that.
I know that I may start the season, and by week 4 or 5, I might be just in a teaching position and a clipboard holder. Or I could be a clipboard holder right from the get-go.
Because
and
Tyrod
was to get him ready.
Tyrod Taylor did not want to do that.
No. Brian Hoyer didn't want to do it.
Brian Hoyer didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't part of the Tyrod came here. I'm going to be the starting quarterback of the Browns. I'm going to be the starting quarterback for the full year.
Yep.
He wasn't there to make Baker Mayfield better. And that's something that hopefully we learn from, and whoever we draft it to, we give them the full support of the room and everybody to have success and have trust and belief and all of those things. So that's a tricky one when you think about that, filling up that quarterback room, however they decide to do it. If you're just joining this, we talked about this quite a bit off the top. Sam Hubbard has announced his retirement from the NFL. The former Bengals, Ohio State, Cincinnati Moeller star. He's going to save the Bengals about $10 million in cap space with the move. Has some iconic plays for them. 98-yard rumble in the jungle, return for a touchdown against the Ravens in the divisional round a couple years ago. And then his last play, he caught a pass from Joe Burrow. That's it. He got hurt on that play. That's it. So that's at just 29 for Sam. Couple other ones. Eagles linebacker Brandon Graham retore his tricep during the Super Bowl, played through it, which means they had not one but 2 linebackers playing through injury. Nolan Smith had the torn tricep in that one as well. Yeah. That's pretty wild. Couple from Texas, wide receiver Tank Dell having a second surgery on his torn ACL that he suffered in Kansas City. His status for 2025 is up in the air. Boy, that's scary.
Yeah,
this late in the game.
The general had this late morning that he had to have a second surgery.
Did he say when that surgery happened? Like recently?
Like this week.
Ooh.
So, I mean, he tore reportedly 4 different major ligaments.
Oh, that's right.
Meniscus.
That was gruesome, wasn't
Yes.
it? That was total mess.
Yeah, but that's a big piece for C.J. Stroud and company.
It sure is. Now, the Texans probably, in a response to that, or at least with some acknowledgement that could be possible, restructured the contract of Nico Collins to free up $9 million in cap space. Texans are a team to watch in free agency. They're a team to watch via trade. If there's like them for DK Metcalf would make sense to me.
Sure.
Their best players are young guys who they haven't had to pay yet. CJ, that to me feels like they
the
can
window
be pretty
is now.
active. Yeah, Will Anderson as well, still on that rookie deal. So lots going on. We anticipate this continuing throughout the next week. This week, early next week, the business of the NFL really starting to heat up in advance of the start of the new league year. The legal tampering, remember, begins on Monday for free agency as well. All right, coming up next, second hour of the program, we kick it off with Z's conversation with ESPN NFL draft analyst Field Yates. That's coming up next. Listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. We'll go around the AFC North and specifically to Cincinnati, where they had a lot of news coming up with Jeff Hobson. That's in about 25 minutes from right now. Between now and then, here is Z sitting down with ESPN NFL draft analyst Field Yates at the NFL Scouting Combine.
Very happy now to be joined by a great friend of the program, as we do always at the Combine, ESPN NFL analyst, draft analyst, Field Yates.
Feels very professional. I love it.
It is professional. And Field, I got to be honest with you, I am so glad that we're doing this now, because a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if we would have been sitting down here doing this interview. You were passing on a quarterback for the Browns at 2, giving them to, I think, the Giants and maybe the Raiders, and saying how great it was for them. And we're like, but we need one too. Yeah. What about us? Yeah. And then Adam Schefter, your colleague, goes on, and you say all future mocks will have a quarterback to the Browns at 2. And look, and now here we are, and it's joyous.
There are a few rules that I follow in life. One of them is my wife is always correct. The second one is that Schefter speaks, I listen. Or if he tweets, I listen as well. And so, yeah, I mean, when Adam Schefter is that assertive in his opinion about what's going to happen, and the time that tweet went out, or the clip went out, was over 2 months in advance of the draft. It tells me that, the man who knows all certainly knows something in this case. So the Browns will be getting a quarterback in all future mock drafts that come from me, and probably all of my colleagues at ESPN as well.
Music to our ears. So we definitely think that is what we need, right?
Yeah,
I mean, to try to get out of the position we're in. And going back to Schefter, I've interviewed him. He doesn't give opinions.
Correct.
So if he says something like
he's
that,
not doing that. What he thinks he's doing, he's telling you what he is hearing.
Yes.
And the man's got a pretty darn good track record, I would say.
Indeed, he does. All right, here you are in Indy.
Yeah.
For you, what are you hoping to, when you come here? What's kind of the top things on your agenda?
Well, it's a piece of the puzzle. It's not the biggest piece of the puzzle, but I always like to get a sense of where I view players coming into it, and then get a sense of where I view players coming out of it. In the case of the vast majority of players, I don't know that my opinion will be dramatically influenced by what takes place this weekend. I'm also mindful of what the historical data of the draft has told us about certain players at certain positions. And I'll give you some examples here to kind of paint a picture of what I'm discussing. Like Will Johnson from Michigan, a cornerback, who will not be working out this week. But if he had, there's some questions within the scouting community about what the top-end speed is for Will. I'm not particularly concerned myself, but I also know that if this guy runs, if he were to run, and he ran a 4.51, there's not a lot of recent precedent of a 4.51 corner going in the first 10 picks of the draft. Tetairoa McMillan from Arizona, another guy who I believe is an outstanding prospect. Same deal kind of applies, right? There are some questions about how exactly fast is his fastest fast. And if the answer is it's 4.51, again, people have said, well, Mike Evans went 7th overall in a 4.53. I don't generally love to compare guys to me, first ballot Hall of Famers, right? Like Mike strikes me as much more the exception than the rule in that category. So generally speaking, if a guy runs, a slower time than the positional average or norm, it might influence his stock. And at the very top of the board, the difference between going 8th and 18th or 6th and 16th is dramatic enough. So those are some of the specific examples that I have my eye on. And there will always be a couple of guys who maybe the testing numbers are incongruent with what you saw on tape, and they make you rethink some things for better or worse. Right,
and you want to it's a lot of getting confirmation, hopefully, or sending you back to the tape and saying, what do we see here?
Totally. That is a big part of it as well. And, I hope that I don't have too many guys where I'm going back and having to rethink my evaluation, because I do want the tape to influence the vast majority of your analysis. But it's a part of the puzzle that you can't ignore.
By the way, I love T-Mac to somehow be available to the Browns maybe later in the first, move up from 33. That would be fantastic. Right? Yep. I would certainly be all about that. All right, in this draft, what are some of the positions? We'll talk quarterbacks, obviously. Sure. But what are some of the positions that you really like or feel that have good value into day 2 and maybe even into day 3?
Yeah, there's going to be 3 that I'm sure you've heard time and again, so I'll just quickly reiterate those for maybe somebody who's not as deeply invested in the draft. Running back, historically great. I asked Mel Kiper, who's been doing this for 47 years in a professional capacity, if it's the deepest he's ever seen, and he thinks that's the answer. So Mel says it. Carries a lot of value in my book. Defensive tackle is outstanding as well, and then tight end's very good. What I think is particularly, I think the important part about this is it's one thing to tell you it's deep. What I think that was unique is it's different shapes and sizes. It's like going to, it's like going to the ice cream parlor, right? Like, you've got
flavors.
every different type of running back available, right? So you've got some guys. Ashton Jeanty, I believe, is in a tier unto himself at the very top of that running back heap. I think from there, you might see a running back go in the first round late. Omarion Hampton from North Carolina, maybe Caleb Johnson from Iowa. I view those guys in a cut below Ashton Jeanty. But you get to the third and fourth round, and it's like, do you want the most prolific pass catcher in the FBS last year amongst running backs in LaQuint Allen from Syracuse? Do you want a guy in Cam Scadaboo who had the second most broken tackles last year, only behind Ashton Jeanty, who had 88? Scadaboo had a mere 68. So, that tells you how mortal these guys are compared to him. Do you want players like R.J. Harvey from UCF, who is just lightning in a bottle? He to me, reminds me of Bucky Irving from Tampa, went in the fourth round out of Oregon last year. You've got guys on day 3 that have minimal tread on the tires. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt's a player, played one game at Arizona this past season, and then because of eligibility issues, was not able to play the rest of the year. Alabama State to New Mexico. This guy's got all kinds of juice. Big, impressive-looking athlete. You just keep going, and you're like, oh, my God, like Basil Tootin from Virginia Tech. This
which
guy,
is a great name.
Which 266 yards against Boston College in a single game, most by any Virginia Tech running back in school history in a single game. Like, you've got all different levels of depth. Those are just like random ones that I thought of on day 3. So you've got that. Same thing for the defensive tackle position. I believe Mason Graham belongs truthfully in the conversation of that top tier of players in this class. I would view it as really a 4-man tier at the very top, and probably like a half line of delineation. Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, and then Ashton Jeanty and Mason Graham. He's outstanding, but it just keeps going and going and going.
So you did not say a quarterback in those top 4. I think Mel has the quarterbacks. I think
maybe
I think
3 and 4.
Mel is
or 4 and 5, 3 or 4. Yeah,
right,
it's very high.
Range,
yes, yep.
Where are you with these quarterbacks?
So I'm a little bit less optimistic, but I also understand that both of them are going to go higher in the draft than where I have them graded. In a vacuum, I have a higher grade on Cam Ward. I believe he has – I've been using this term often in describing him, but I call it second reaction plays. It's when things don't go well.
Absolutely.
Do you have an opportunity? Do you have a changeup that can maybe turn a negative into a positive? He's not this exceedingly dynamic athlete like Jaden Daniels or Caleb May or Drake May at the top of the board last year. He's a very good athlete, though. He's not going to be a statue in the pocket. He's a better athlete than Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur, I think, is a more accurate, better pocket passer. Cam has stronger arms, can throw from a lot of different angles. He was part of the reason why Miami fell behind a lot last year. He had some uncharacteristic early mistakes in games, but he also has some serious fourth-quarter magic. Yeah. Yes, the Cal kind of trying to throw the ball all the way across the field, like an example of a play that I'm sure the minute he threw that ball, he was like, no, what was I thinking there? But he's got some fourth-quarter magic to him as well, that he was very much unflappable when the game was on the line, and Miami played a ton of close games. So there's a lot to like about Cam and Shedeur for that matter, but my grade for each of them is, in the case of Cam, it's 12, and Shedeur, it's 19. So we're talking about those guys going in the first maybe 5 picks.
Yeah.
Is it a reach? I don't know. I mean, it's the most important
position
in sports, and if those guys hit, then – who cares? We took them 220, 200th. Like, it doesn't matter. If
you're convicted, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And you need to be on quarterbacks, or else it's not worth taking one, in my opinion.
Yeah. And hopefully the Browns, they've got a good staff in place, obviously with Kevin Stefanski, Tommy Reese, Bill Musgrave to kind of nurture this quarterback. You have some of the old, you have some of the new, and then you have Kevin. So I think both of them give a good opportunity. I almost see Shedeur kind of in our scheme if we go back to that kind of
I would agree.
wide zone, maybe as a better scheme fit. But to your point earlier, I think Cam is a better ball of clay. There's more tools.
Yeah. That's why the in a vacuum part of the conversation is important here. And, yeah, I mean, so if you think about the most recent quarterback that Kevin had a lot of sustained success with, Kirk Cousins, right? Shedeur more profiles like Kirk Cousins than he does than Cam Ward does, right? Shedeur's a better athlete than Kirk, but he's not he's a fine athlete by quarterback standards, especially in today's NFL.
Yes. He's a pocket passer. He's going to have to win most. As his career progresses, he is going to have win before the ball is snapped more often than not.
That was probably the thing that I thought was the most interesting in watching Kirk Cousins on Quarterback, the Netflix documentary, was him talking about how, like, he feels by the time the game begins on Sunday that he has emptied the bucket in terms of every possible thing that he could do to ensure that before the snap, I have an idea of what it's going to look like after the snap. And you got to be nimble and dynamic and be able to react, but And a lot of times, especially in that scheme, the way they're dialing it up, like, you got a pretty good chance if you just follow orders, continue to make a profit by, moving the football down the field. So for the Browns specifically, if you ask me, like, if the scheme is going to look like what it did when Kevin first arrived, I would say Shedeur Sanders looks like a more hand-in-glove fit. That being said, if you have a stronger overall opinion of Cam Ward, like I do, you have to consider him, especially this high in the draft.
What are you hearing in relation to, because it felt like, and now we got a little Abdul Carter news, but now we're saying it's actually not news, and we'll see how it goes. But, at least in the conversations I'd had, it kind of got the sense that Tennessee was not really that interested in taking a quarterback.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, if you're the Browns, and let's say you are running the Browns and you are more convicted, you would want Cam Ward, do you explore going up to number 1? Because I remember 2016, I'm sure you do as well. Titans won, Browns 2. Browns wanted Goff.
Yep.
They stayed there. Titans aren't taking a quarterback. And then here come the Rams.
Yeah, so it's something to consider for sure. And there's really no price to pay that's too steep if you get the quarterback that you want and he ends up being a good player as well. I do think, though, like if we're talking about and I hate to just use the most obvious example, but the Trey Lance package from a few years ago where it's 2 plus the 2026 1 plus more, like I'd be really wary of that.
Yeah, no.
Especially given the lack of first-round picks the Browns have had.
We're just happy to have one. We're happy
to have one here. So I would be, I would make the call, but I would make sure that it's as close to being on your terms as possible.
All right, we'll get you out of here, and this is always a pleasure. Combine about medicals. I want to know where we at here. Are we fully recovered? Green light?
I have been given the green light by my surgeon. I'm about, 6 months post-labrum tear, and I feel great. There are mornings where I wake up stiff, though, which I'm telling myself it's about the shoulder. It
You're
might
way
just
too
be
young.
age.
No,
37's hitting me hard right now.
Stop it.
So,
46, come on.
46, you
please,
look great,
you're
though.
fine.
Come
you're
on.
fine.
No, age is just a number. But, no, I feel good.
Good.
You can't tell, but I have been pumping some iron.
No, you look fantastic. It's a
wish,
nicely fitted shirt.
I
like it.
Yeah, I just buy tight shirts, so I look like I actually have some muscle mass on me.
That is a great secret, Field. Thanks so much, man.
Good to see you, man.
All right, there you go. Good stuff with Z and Field from over in Indianapolis at the Scouting Combine. We've got another big-time restructure in the NFL as the news is coming fast and furious. We'll get you up to speed on all of that coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Howard Hanna, official real estate provider, your Cleveland Browns exclusive buyer agent, there to help you navigate the field, save time and money, and score that winning touchdown in a new home. Win big with the leader in real estate. Visit howardhanna.com/GoBrowns today. Well, we have another restructure. It involves the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott.
Yeah, Todd Archer, ESPN's NFL Nation Cowboy reporter. The Cowboys have restructured Dak Prescott's contract, opening up $36.5 million in cap space per source. It's a hell of a restructure. Yeah. That's now $56.6 million created in the last 2 days with the CeeDee Lamb move and the Dak Prescott move. So what are they up to, and what's the end game?
Well, they got to get Parsons done, right? Because they're waiting on that.
Well, who are they going after? There's no way this is just to re-sign guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of receivers in the market. We've seen that already with all the buyouts. I wonder if this is up to the minute. I'm on Over the Cap right now looking at, like, cap space around the league. This might have been at the end of the year. I don't know if this is official or not. I mean, the Patriots by far and away the most. The Patriots $127 million in cap space. The Raiders are at 95, Cardinals 77, Chargers 65, Commies 64, Vikings 62, Steelers 59, Cowboys 54. So they had a lot of cap space kind of going into all of this.
So
cap track
again, like track. Let's see if this does. I feel like this is an all-in kind of year for Jera and company.
Well, he just hired Brian Schottenheimer. As everyone said, you did what? Right? So what's the one thing that you can do to make that a success? Put the best possible team on the field. Now, they've never spent in free agency. It's just not their style. They acquire players via trade, but they've never been a team that's splashed in free agency.
Over the Cap is saying the Cowboys now have $54 million in cap room.
So it looks like Sports Track has a pretty up-to-date one because they have New England at 130, and I know Over the Cap had them at 124. So this one has New England at 130. It's got Dallas at 56.2. So creating a lot. It still has Vegas is second by a wide margin, 95. I mean, Vegas wants to go after Sam Darnold. They could do it.
Yeah.
Pretty easily. They could give him the contract that he deserves or would certainly covet. Bottom end of the cap space world, all in negative right now. This won't be the case, but right now New Orleans minus 46. We're at minus 22. So I don't think any of this can be officially up to the date until the new league year. So you're kind of just waiting on that to see what all of it looks like. But you've seen a massive amount of business in the NFL today. Obviously, the idea that the Seahawks have already released Tyler Lockett, are going to release Tyler Lockett, that they are willing to trade and grant the trade request of DK Metcalf. You have the you have the contract extension with Max Crosby that makes him the highest paid non-quarterback in the history of the league. You had the Bears acquiring all-pro guard Joe Thuney. That happened earlier today. The big news here in the state, Sam Hubbard, former Ohio State great, Cincinnati Moeller great, Cincinnati Bengal great, retiring at age 29. We'll have more on him with Jeff Hobson here momentarily. Christian Kirk being released today. Gardner Minshew being released today. Travis Kelce coming back. That was kind of got lost.
Yeah, we forgot about that.
That became I think everybody knew it was heading in that direction. But that's kind of the spot that happened today as well. So all of these teams trying to get locked in to a point where they're good to go for next week when legal tampering begins.
Meanwhile, the viewership numbers continue to the NFL continues to crush in everything. The NFL just put out 2025 NFL Scouting Combine viewership, most watched combine on NFL Network alone since 2017.
Do you have the number by chance on what it averaged?
Day 3 Saturday coverage featured QB, wide receiver, and running back, averaged 484,000 viewers.
To watch people do drills.
Yeah. Most watched day 3 on record, up 21%. Day 4 Sunday coverage featuring the offensive line, up 22%. Highest since 2020.
And that's, yeah. Here's the thing that I think will be interesting, and as we're entering into an era where these guys they want compensation for everything they do. If you're the NFL, do you say to Arch Manning, we'll pay you $7 million to throw or $2 million to throw.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what – because then you could build programming around it. Is there even more?
Over the 4 days of coverage on NFL Network, 5.1 million fans watched the Combine. That's insane.
Yeah.
The Underwear Olympics, 5.1 million people.
Yeah, and even the guys at the top of it didn't even do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, you're watching mid-round quarterbacks, sort of mid-round receivers. Travis Hunter didn't do anything. I don't know if the McMillan kid did or not, but he's not exactly a household name. I know we've talked about him a lot, but not a household name. But Travis Hunter didn't do anything. Shedeur didn't throw. Cam didn't throw. Did Abdul Carter didn't do anything?
Nope.
Like, nobody at the top of the draft even participated in it.
Correct.
So, yeah. No, they're operating on a different, just a totally different stratosphere. So I do think it does seem to me that the Raiders, it feels like the Raiders are the spot for Darnold, that they're kind of gearing up for it. They signed Alex Kappa.
Yeah.
They just re-signed Crosby. Like, it's got to be Darnold or Rodgers for them. I suppose Russ could do it too. Maybe you do that, and then they would sign Lockett. They got to be the landing spot for Lockett.
I think today is. Didn't you say, G-Man, today is Justin Fields' birthday?
It feels like he's going to end up back in Pittsburgh as like their starter.
Yeah, I think the Raiders have a couple options. They've at least put themselves in position to have a few options.
Yeah. I mean, they're in a spot where them and the Giants kind of got to figure out their way. What would be crazy and would be awesome for us is if the Giants signed Darnold and the Raiders got Rodgers, and then neither one of them has to go try to get a quarterback at 1, and we can just sit there at 2 and take the guy we want
Best
to.
available.
Yeah, and take best quarterback we want, because Tennessee's not taking quarterback.
Yeah.
That's very, very, very well known. So a very, very busy day in the National Football League as we inch closer to legal tampering beginning on Monday. One of the teams that has been very, very busy is the one straight down 71 South in Cincinnati, the Cincinnati Bengals, with a monster offseason. We continue our AFC offseason previews, season reviews in Cincinnati with the Bengals. Jeff Hobson, senior writer for Bengals.com, will join us in a couple of minutes. Listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, just Jeff Hobson, senior writer for Bengals.com, going to join us here momentarily. I think the Cincinnati Bengals have the most interesting offseason in the National Football League. I think it's us and them, honestly, on a very short list in terms of the way to reshape things. Their task is that they have a quarterback who is elite. They have been to the mountaintop, damn near, and they have a bunch of guys who are high premium, high pay guys they got to get sorted out. So that starts obviously right out in the front, and that starts with Jamar Chase. That's Trey Hendrickson, and that's been T. Higgins. And everything they're doing, they have the retirement of Sam Hubbard. They've got the release of Alex Kappa, and so they're moving in a direction to create more. And every time you talk to anybody down there, they say, hey, we want to keep them all. It's a lot of money on 4 players, but that's what you keep hearing from anybody down there.
Yeah. I mean, they're putting all the eggs in the basket. Burrow wants all of his weapons, and now we got to wait and see if they can make all that work. I mean, T. Higgins franchised again. I'm sure he's not pleased about that. But
no, I'm probably not.
I just don't know how you can I don't know how you can pay all these guys what they're going to want. And again, you should have taken care of Jamar Chase last year.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like he thought they were going to do that, and then they didn't. So that's kind of the thing that you're waiting on there. Look, if they would have got in, nobody wanted to play him.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as it always is with them, where they just started slow, and when you start slow, it's really hard to dig out of that hole, and they just dug way too big of a hole. It started in week 1 with the loss to New England. They lost at home to New England, who really should have had the number 1 pick in the draft. They lost at home to them 16-10 in week 1.
I was going to say it was a low scoring, like couldn't get anything done. I'll never understand that.
Burrow completed almost 71% of his passes, 43 touchdowns, just 9 picks, 4,918 yards. He led the NFL in passing touchdowns, led the NFL in passing yards. Jamar Chase won the Triple Crown, 127 receptions, 1,708 and 17 touchdowns. They had the league leader in sacks in Trey Hendrickson, and yet somehow they missed the postseason.
That's what I was just going. I'm like, you arguably had the Defensive Player of the Year, the MVP if they make the playoffs, and the number 1 overall offensive player.
Yeah, all of those things. They fire Lou Anarumo, who at no point,
sure he deserved that.
At no point do I think that it was on him. After 6 years, he was on a short list for head coaching jobs after they made it all the way to the Super Bowl. But they did finish 25th in the league in total defense, 25th in scoring defense. He has been replaced by former Notre Dame defensive coordinator Al Golden. So that's where they stand from a coaching standpoint heading into this offseason. But again, this is all about Chase. This is all about Higgins. It's all about Hendrickson. And that's kind of where they are at this point. But you got Burrow.
You have Burrow, but is Burrow happy? Because everything that we saw once the season ended, you saw a very unhappy Joe Burrow. Like
he would tell anybody. Yeah, he'd tell anybody that was willing to have him on.
Yeah.
That there's no reason they can't keep all of them. And they reference that Philadelphia keeps all their guys. So that's obviously where his intent
Are
is.
we sure that that's true, by the way? Does Philadelphia really keep all their guys?
I think what he's referring to is they kept A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. And so they had 2 receivers making over $25 million a year. But they're also not having a quarterback make what Joe makes. So that's the tricky part of it. Kev, did you say we have Jeff?
Yes, we do.
Okay, perfect. Let's head on to the Twisted Tea Hotline, presented by Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. He's our good buddy, Jeff Hobson. He's a senior writer for Bengals.com, and he joins us there. Let's start with Sam Hubbard. Busy day down there for you. The retirement of Sam Hubbard. What is your favorite Sam Hubbard story?
Sorry about that, guys, but
no
thank
worries.
you for getting me in here. I appreciate it. Always good to be with the good folks in Cleveland. I think I just heard my favorite Sam Hubbard story, talking to Marvin Lewis, his first coach in Cincinnati, and he was with Urban Meyer. Right, Marvin was with Urban Meyer about the time that Sam committed to Ohio State, and Sam called him, and Urban said, "Hey, you've committed to the Ohio State. I'm gonna put you on with the guy who's going to be your next coach." And it actually turned out that he ended up in his hometown. And
really,
the guy. Yeah, go ahead.
That's so you're Urban had Marvin in the room.
Yeah, he was just and Sam called.
Oh my
gosh, I don't know where they were.
I'd not heard that story, Jeff. That's fascinating.
Yeah, the script is just you can't make the stuff up with Sam, and he was really when we got him in the third round in 2018, really good fit because he's the guy that really fit the division. We probably could stand to get a couple more guys like him because he was a kind of a versatile guy. Could play a little inside earlier in his career. But, he retires, guys. He retires, according to Pro Football Reference, he's got the most combined tackles of a defender in the league in 2018. And, he's just a reliable guy, rugged, was great in the playoff runs, and he just, get really, he got beat up in the last couple of years, and he made the call.
Yeah, and his final play is a touchdown catch from Joe Burrow, which is pretty wild considering they both
can't make it up.
No,
and they were buddies, and they were buddies at Ohio State. They were close friends before Joe got drafted here.
Oh no, yeah, they go way back when you think of those two. All right, listening to Duke over at the scouting combine and listening to Joe during the season, all off season. We want to bring them all back. We want to keep the band together. Give me kind of the off-season checklist for the Bengals, the front office, and the likelihood of being able to keep Chase, Higgins, and Hendrickson.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. It's the question of the off-season. I mean, clearly, and Duke said this up there, Jamaz, the priority, and then what? I just saw Max Crosby. What did Max Crosby just get? What?
90-some guaranteed, 36, something like that. Yeah.
I mean, you get these three guys. First time in history, you got the leading passer, the leading receiver, and the leading sacker on the same team. So, I think it's new territory for everybody. So, but I think Jamaz, they'd like to get all three. They somehow like to work it out. But I think the priority is Jamaz, and then after that, I don't know.
What role, if any, Jeff, will Joe play in all of this?
Well, I think he's played a significant role. I think he's always had he's had a very open, dialogue with Zach, and I think he's had an open dialogue with Duke as well. I think, when you sign a contract like Joe did, you're more than you're kind of a partner at that point, and I think that's how the Bengals view him. And I think Joe's I think probably in contact with folks. And I think, like I said, he and Zach have a really good open relationship. So I think it's I think Joe's made his feelings known.
And certainly the season that Jamar Chase had is an all-timer. I mean, he won the Triple Crown. We have heard reporting that he wants to reset markets and all of that stuff. Him and T have the same agent. Is that something that – is there anything we can read into at all now, Jeff?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think it probably helps because I think probably one deal probably going to affect the other, right? But I mean, like I said, I think Jamaz the priority. They want to get both of them done. And I think, if you get that guys in the room, probably helps, I would think. It would certainly cut down on the number of calls you're going to make.
That's 100% true, my friend. All right, so you've got those. Those are the big ticket items. One thing that we know, if you are going to go all in, if you are going to pay for all three of them, in addition to paying for Burrow and everything else you're doing, then you need some guys who you've drafted to step up in a big way because you can't have expenses in other places to have this all work under the cap. Mike Brown famously talks about if a piece of pie, and if you take one big piece out, there's less left for everybody else. So who do you like? Who are young guys in the building who need to elevate themselves this offseason, provided you're able to keep all of these guys in-house?
Yeah, and I should say, when they said priorities, Jamar, and they also said Hendrickson, priority. Higgins a priority. They also said Mike Gesicki. So I think all 4 guys, they're trying to get done, right? They're trying to clear the decks. But beyond that, the young guys that got to step up, Miles Murphy, the first pick in the 2023 draft for them, the pass rusher for Clemson. Didn't have a sack last year. He's going to have to come on. I think the linebackers are going to have to be. I think they'll be revived under Al Golden. But some of these young guys you're talking about, the two defensive tackles, they get Murphy on the edge. The 2 defensive tackles they took in the 2nd and 3rd rounds last year, Chris Jenkins Jr. and McKinley Jackson, played well. They play well. They're going to have to get better. They're going to have to get to keep ascending has to be Jordan Battle at safety.
Yeah.
And he did. They like what he did in the last half of the year after Von Bell got benched. So I think those are 4 guys that should probably get a circle. And I think offensively, obviously they got to get something out of Jermaine Burton. The 3rd round pick from last year who only had 4 catches. He's going to have to do something this year. And I think that's probably they're probably going to need probably I think with Chase Brown, Zach Moss is kind of a question mark. Chase Brown showed that he could carry the load at running back, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them try to pick up something there to complement Chase.
Jeff, what do you anticipate? What's kind of your lean on what they'll do in the draft? Obviously, free agency could dictate that a little bit, but what's kind of your lean now in the first round?
I think the other thing too. I think the young guys who have done well also. By the way, Andrei Yoshevich, I think is a receiver. I think they feel like he is. He's good enough to be a number 3. A really good, solid number 3. First round, I know it's got to be on the defensive line, maybe, right? If you're just looking at it, you get Sam retiring, and you get B.J. Hill's a free agent, who's been their starting defensive tackle for the last 4 years, so I think probably I would think depth at the edge and at tackle. They're still trying to find that. Still trying to replace that DJ Reader type big man that you can't move. So you got to get those guys early. So I'm thinking in the trenches. I think they're going to be looking at. They like to think the earlier the pick, the bigger they go. Usually, I think they feel like the big people. You got to get them early. So maybe they go early for a guard or something like that. I know they want to. They released Alex Kappa last week. So I think that's going to be they got Cody Ford's a free agent. They'd like to re-sign him, but I think the guard. I think a guard is in play at some point. But I'm thinking the trenches. I think that defensive front. It is after all the AFC North.
Jeff, do you think they'll have all of this? I'll get you out of here on this one, my friend. We appreciate your time greatly. Do you think they'll have Chase, Higgins, Hendrickson sorted out by the draft?
I do, and I think they'll be Bengals. And I think they'll be. I think it's going to work out. I maybe I'm a house guy. I'm a house man, maybe. But hey, it's like Rafael Devers and Bregman in Boston. It will work out.
It will.
You get all these guys. Somehow it will work out. I mean, I can think of what Zach Taylor said. Champagne problems.
Yeah.
I mean, look at all these great players you're trying to keep. I mean, at some point you got to tip your hat off to them and say, "Yeah, you did a hell of a job." It's so tough nowadays. It's tough to find good talent and to cultivate it, and then you got to keep it. So I think they find a way.
You're the best, buddy. Thanks for your time. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Sorry for the delay. Thank you very much.
No problem at all. That's Jeff Hobson, senior writer at Bengals.com. He joined the program on the Twisted Tea Hotline, presented by Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. So much more to come. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. It's just remarkable day. This is just the ESPN NFL headlines page. Raiders Crosby reach $106.5 million extension, highest paid non-quarterback in the history of the league. Seahawks star wide receiver DK Metcalf requests a trade. Seahawks are going to honor that. The Cowboys reworked Dak Prescott's deal, added $36.6 million to their cap. The Seahawks releasing franchise great wide receiver Tyler Lockett. The Bears trading for all-pro guard John Tooney. Longtime Bengals defensive end. I mean, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Hubbard retiring at the age of 29. Sam Hubbard. Source, the Jaguars plan to release veteran wide receiver Christian Kirk. Source, Raiders expect to release quarterback Gardner Minshew.
And
just today.
Just in the last couple of minutes, Eagles and linebacker Zach Bond, a new 3-year, $51 million deal with $34 million guaranteed.
I thought this was going to come out of the combine.
What's free agency going to be by the time we get to next week?
Nothing. I mean, that's been happening though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in recent years, like the deals are done. I mean, we're not even to legal tampering, which is Monday, and all this stuff is happening. So Monday's going to be crazy. We're still not. Today's the first Friday. We're still not even done with. We're halfway home on this week.
Yeah.
Yet the rest of today, there's going to be a lot of business in this league done in the next few days, for sure.
Yeah,
2 minutes.
It's insane what's already happened. The new year starts 1 week from today at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
I mean, you got guys either retiring. And by the way, there's another story that's worth watching here. Like, what's Joel Bitonio going to do?
I was going to say it's all quiet on our front too. So that's the other.
I know Joel wanted to have a decision made, and I think the team would like to have a decision before free agency starts.
Yeah.
Well, that only leaves a couple days here.
Yeah, it's starting to. A lot of people want to know if you had Big Fat Tuesday plans yesterday.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't. Like, back in the day, absolutely.
Of course.
There was a bar downtown called Fat Fish Blue. We used to broadcast from it. It was a New Orleans-style bar.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. It'd be hungover till Thursday. But, yeah, no.
Yeah, so Fat Tuesday, and then today's Ash Wednesday. So my wife was like, you got to go get, what are they, Pushkis or whatever they are? Poochkis. We got to go get Poochkis. So, we had to go, I had to go track those down last night. But I think you were supposed to eat them at breakfast, but the boys ended up eating them for dessert. Who knows?
It's fine.
And then king cake is the thing that is the New Orleans, especially where you get that baby that's in there. That cake's not that great, to be honest with you.
It's not.
Poochkis
By the
are
way,
a
it's
lot
a
better.
weird cake, too.
It is. Go ahead, Kev.
Homemade jambalaya, though. The family recipe yesterday, guys, on Mardi Gras.
Are you a you a Creole? You from that? You got
30.
ties to that neck of the woods?
Yeah, my mom's side. Her mom, my late grandmother, was from that area, from New Orleans, and we used to take trips down there, and I just haven't been since I've been able to cognitively take in vacations.
Closest food up here I've had to that is Russo's. It's Peninsula, Boston Heights area. That's the closest I've had to that. One of the guys who started was at Commander's Palace, so that's the closest I've had to that New Orleans authentic style. So enjoy your Ash Wednesday, your Fat Tuesday, which was yesterday. The next level's coming up next. Thanks for listening, everybody.